Good morning, everyone, and happy Friday. I am so excited for today's podcast. One of my favorite shows is coming up, and that's really what the discussion is about today, and just really understanding what this type of show is and everything that is involved with it. If you are tuning in live, you know the drill. Say your name, what your business is, where you're tuning in from. That way we can holler back at you. I will also say this is a great time or a great conversation between Cassie and myself to ask any and all questions about really just kind of understanding Printing United and everything that kind of is encompassed within this one giant event. So today's topic is all about Inside Printing United, highlights and insights, and really just understanding the type of experience and education that you should expect to get when you attend Printing United. And I'm so excited because Cassie Green, I think this is your third or fourth returning moment.
I think so. It's hard to keep it all straight in my brain, but I think that's right.
Yeah, it's one of those, but she is the content director with Apparelist, and she is extremely involved in both the social side, customer facing within the attendees. And just really, if you don't know who she is, then I guess this is the cue to social media to start putting all of her content popping up on your page. So Cassie, thank you so much. If you guys are tuning in live and listening, then just know we'll be able to answer any questions that kind of pop up as they come. If you are asking any questions in comments or chats as you're listening to the replay, or you are streaming this on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, then know that we will do our best to go back in and answer any questions. That way you guys can at least get the answers to what you are looking for. So let's go ahead and dive in. And one of the biggest things that I think is really important is talking about the trade shows and events in our industry. Not only is it great for really kind of continuing education, but it gives you insights to other people in the industry that aren't necessarily looked at competitors, but as a community that you can lean on to help with any struggles, get any ideas and advancement, technology. Goodness gracious, really, some of really close friendships have been created in this community. So what really is Printing United and how was it started?
Oh boy. Well, we could backtrack and go through the whole history, but just broad view is it used to be SGIA. That was, already several years ago, which feels crazy saying. Originally started SGIA, was always, printing industry focused, and then rebranded to Printing United Alliance around the 2020-ish timeframe. I know we sort of all repressed 2020 a little bit. So that's when everything happened. And then, of course, Printing United Expo came along with that, just with the combination of, when Printing Industries of America joined, ID Alliance joined, all of these great organizations came together to really embrace and build and support the printing community at large, which of course meant apparel decoration as well, which Printing United Alliance didn't have a lot of solid representation in the apparel community at first. And so that's why we're here. So then they also launched Apparelist, which is the apparel brand. So it's all sort of come together in this big umbrella to support the printing industry. And then of course, again, Expo being part of that, it's all of the printing verticals represented under one roof, which is, as you can imagine, really hard to do. And you said it, it's giant. It's this giant show where you can see equipment, you can see blanks, you can see the accessories, the supplies, you meet with the exhibitors, but also get the education, get the hands-on training. There is tons of stuff in one place. So it's kind of like a big, I don't know, I almost look at it as like a family reunion because like you said, I
Great.
built a lot of personal relationships with a lot of these people. So it's like
Yep.
hugs and everybody's excited to see each other and we're all in one place for the first time in probably a year. And it's awesome.
Yeah, and you really see a lot more international brands at this show as well. So for me, I'm always curious, like what's next, what's coming. And I think that's probably a pro and a con. But I'm always curious what somebody in a different country is doing that maybe we aren't doing, or what's popular, what's not popular. I think it just allows you to also create a whole other niche or world in your space that maybe it hasn't hit yet, right? So it doesn't matter where you are, but being able to take on, what you see around the world, I think is always a great experience.
Oh yeah, and I don't know about you, but in my day-to-day tasks, I get kind of tunnel vision almost.
Hmm.
You get sort of buried in what you're working on that day, and you sort of forget to have that bigger lens and look at everything that's going on around you. So I
Yeah.
think it's a really interesting point you raise is having those international influences and representations where we're looking beyond our walls and what is sort of like immediate to our businesses or our day-to-day tasks.
Yeah.
You're right. It's crucial because how are you going to know if something really cool is happening that's going to be great for your business?
Yeah. I live smack dab in the middle of the state. So whatever's trending on the East Coast or West Coast, it really does take a couple of years for it to hit a trend, here. And I think that's more that it's just not readily available. Like if you're going into a shop, it just may not be something that you see all the time. It doesn't mean that you can't get it. It's just something that you don't see. So I think being able to kind of be a brand or a business that's able to get out ahead of the trend, I think is always super important. And that's one thing we talk a lot about, is just understanding what's coming, not necessarily adapting to, like, this is so hot right now, you got to do it.
Right. And I think too, to kind of like play off that a little bit, you might not like adopt every single trend. You don't have to do every single thing,
For
but you
sure.
do have to be aware of it. And that's why like trade shows in general throughout the industry are so crucial because that's where you're at least going to build some awareness.
Yep. And so for somebody that is brand new, right? They've never been to Printing United, or even for somebody that is new to the industry. And last year, I heard so many people say, this is the first time I've ever been to Printing United. And it was the first show that they had ever attended. So I'm like, that's a double whammy on a whole other level. But what can a newcomer kind of expect to see at Printing United that would be a little different than, say, a local show or a show that might be available multiple times throughout the year?
Yeah, so the first thing I always tell people who are first time attendees is make a plan because the show is huge. It's 3 days, but there is no way that you can stop and see every technology and talk to every person in 3 days. It's just not, unless you're superhuman, in which case, please give me a call because I have questions. And so make a plan. Browse the site, look at the list of exhibitors, set your intention. What is it? Is there equipment you're hoping to buy? Or is there just a certain exhibitor you're hoping to meet? Are there classes that you absolutely have to sit in on? Go through, make a plan, download the app. We have a great app that you can download that can help you set up your agenda, sends you reminders, all that good stuff. So you don't really have to think, everything's there outlined for you. The other thing I really like to emphasize to those maybe new to the industry, new to the business, new to Printing United Expo, is that while you make a plan, don't limit yourself. And I know that seems like counterintuitive advice, But what I mean by that is, okay, so say I'm an apparel decorator, I've got the screen printing, I've got the heat applied graphics, but maybe you don't just visit the apparel decorating area. You should probably wander on over to the wide format printing section and see what you can do there, because the chances are that while you might not be ready to add white format technology to your business, your customers are asking for it. Maybe it's in your 5-year plan, whatever. So go check it out. Go check out some of the other spaces like the packaging area or the commercial printing space, because truthfully, again, like you said, you don't know what's out there until you kind of see it and experience it. Even if you're just walking through, you don't have to set an intention to buy a piece of equipment that's worth $1 million. Like that doesn't need to necessarily be your intention. Your intention should be to understand that there's not just one way of operating in the printing industry. And that's what you really get with Printing United Expo, is you really get your eyes opened to many opportunities that are out there.
Yeah, that's I think that's actually one thing we don't talk a whole lot when attending other shows or even education, honestly. I have noticed that there's a lot of conversation with customers or potential customers that actually had one business and it drove them into a different business. It wasn't necessarily in a 5-year plan or a plan whatsoever, but because of a customer request or just kind of foreseeing maybe reducing the size of equipment or space that, whatever their production facility is in, it put them into this lane. So I think being able to go and just see it from multiple different printing aspects. It's not just to decorate apparel or, like you said, wide format. It's really kind of understanding all of the capabilities with very similar equipment.
Right. And I think the great part is like, obviously you're going to be there. Stalls is going to be there. This is the best time to have an in-person conversation with somebody, because the phone calls are great. And obviously so many suppliers and manufacturers in our industry do customer service well. But I mean, to me, I love having an in-person conversation. I just do. So.
And there's people you can vibe with. There's connections. There's this feeling of loyalty and safety. I think it allows people to not be behind the phone, right? If somebody's coming up and seeing you in person, then it's definitely easier to get a feeling of someone being more genuine or understanding. Or my favorite is being able to go, hold on, let me introduce you to somebody. And then we leave our booth and we go some completely different, but it's really kind of just showing that, we're going to put you in the right direction. And there's so many of us that do that, from partners and different brands and understanding.
You and I did that last year.
Yeah.
At one point, I'm in one part of the show and Kelly's in another part of the show. And she texts like, where are you? There's somebody I need you to meet.
Yeah.
So valuable.
Yeah, it's being able to have that. And whether or not you think you have maybe a close relationship with the distributor and manufacturer, you just never know who you could meet to then build something further. Let's talk about education, because there's so, like you said a minute ago, there's so much that goes on. It would be impossible to hit anything and everything that this show has to offer, from the education area, like you said, apparel area, printing area, from industry conversation and insights. So what type of education and learning really kind of just goes on at Printing United that, again, might be a little different than classes that might be offered before, during, or at the end of a show?
Sure. So, and I think that's a really important piece to talk about, is we all approach education a little bit differently, and we all crave it, and then we all learn a little bit differently, right? And so what we really try to do with our various education programs is shape them in different ways to appeal to a lot of different attendees. So of course we do have our general sessions, our general education sessions that go on the entirety of the show. Those are going to be your very traditional classroom style setting where there's panels or presenters talking about specific subjects. So like we have a keynote presentation that's all about research data into the printing industry, which is always a good one because numbers don't lie, right? So numbers always give you a great insight as to what's going on in the industry. And so those are good to, if you just want to kind of sit and listen to an expert speak on a specific topic, those are great to attend. And like I said, they go on the entirety of the show. So if we want to sort of look at this as like zooming in a little bit, and I'm going to use apparel just as obviously an example because apparel doesn't mean we're the only ones doing this, but you can come to the apparel zone for a more dialed in focused level of education. And there's two ways we've structured that. One is we have the Apparelist Live Theater, which is previously Future State. So for anybody who has attended in the last couple of years, Future State Theater is now part of the Apparel Zone. And in that you can, again, sit in on presentations, but most of them are modeled in sort of okay, we have an expert presenting on a business topic in the apparel industry, but we'll also be taking live Q&A from the audience. So there's a small interactive portion built into there. Let's just use the Stalls presentation as an example. We have, Stalls is doing a presentation titled Building a Sustainable Workforce, which you will talk about the labor thing that we all keep talking about and want to know. And so there will be good information presented on that. But then, of course, again, if there are audience members who are like, well, what about this? What about that? This is a great, more intimate environment to ask those questions, again, in more of like a business lens. And then, of course, the third part of like the education program is what we're calling the live training sessions, also within the apparel zone. So if I'm an attendee and I actually want a true demo where I can not only see equipment being used, but then I can go interact with it and I can decide like, hey, this is going to work for my business. We have live training sessions that happen in the apparel zone for a variety of apparel decorating technologies. So I want to go learn how to do heat transfer. I'm interested in like all the different kinds of transfers, the equipment, things like that. But I'm not necessarily ready to purchase. This is a great time to go sit in on a formal demonstration of the equipment in a smaller, more focused session that's more about the experience of learning the equipment. So it kind of, all of these tie together to get a more comprehensive learning experience.
And I think that's the cool thing is that like with the apparel zone, that education, the area that's been created, which is so cool, cannot wait to see it this year. It really gives this kind of like shopping experience, like where you can go in, like you said, it's very informal. There's education that will be like for us each day, each presentation time or slotted time will be different content. So, if you come in on one day and you want to continue taking classes in apparel zone all day, you can hit everyone at different times, different classes, and really kind of just get this day of education, whether it's you, your team, somebody that maybe you've just hired and you want to throw them into this world and grab as much information as possible. You go walk the floor and they go into education. It's just, it's, a great way to kind of double up on what's out there. And I say lightly in one space because the Las Vegas Convention Center is not small by any means.
No, it's not. And it takes a lot of effort. So again, wear your walking shoes.
Yes.
If you're not planning on wearing walking shoes, I would rethink that approach. But that's what I really want to emphasize about the apparel zone is it is really about education. It's just completely dedicated to educating our attendees, teaching them my hope is we have a lot of attendees there who have not decorated apparel before.
Yeah.
Because there are so many cool things you can do, and it's such a creative space, and there are so many options. I don't know that a lot of, a lot of other printers necessarily realize that, or if they're beginners, they haven't explored it yet. So you know that if you come to the apparel zone, you are going to get a full blast of education, like you were saying.
And let's clarify this for me. When you sign up to attend Printing United, you are an attendee. You do not have to pay for the additional, say, insights to attend. Like if you're in the show, you can go to, I will call it Future State again, but it is not Future State. It's not Future State, and Apparel Zone. So if you are in, you're in. It's not like an additional package to have added on.
Yeah, the apparel zone is not like an additional fee or anything like that. In Apparelist Live Theater, you can just sit in on those as you see fit. It's just built into your registration. Anyone can come in and out, free will, all that good stuff. We're going to have a podcast booth. So if you want to just come listen to a podcast, or even just, 10 minutes of a podcast, and then you want to pop over and do a live training session. And oh, by the way, there's a theater presentation next. You kind of want to just cycle through that zone. Great. Awesome. Like that, we built it to be a very fluid area where, yes, all attendees are welcome. There's no additional cost for that.
So we've talked a little bit about really kind of how Apparelist is involved. We know a lot of that is within the education, the industry insights, keeping that community connection. What other events happen? I always am like, what's happening at nighttime? It's great to go and work throughout the day and really, dive into increasing business success through efficiency, productivity, diversification, whatever your plan or route is. But social hour is, what's going on? Tell me more.
There are so many to choose from. And again, there's just, I don't think it's physically possible to attend all of the different social events. But again, if you find a way to do it,
good for you.
Find me. Please come tell me how you cloned yourself. So I'm going to start. So day one, we have this really cool, what we're calling opening night shindig, Blue Wave in the Desert. It's this really amazing event that we're partnering with Rick Roth on. And it's going to be kind of outside the apparel zone area. And so if you find yourself in that area toward the end of the day on day one, September 10th, you can just keep right on going outside to this event. And so what it is it's free, but we're using it as like a fundraiser to kind of bring awareness on the music scene. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of fun. So Rick has done a great job, bringing in various artists, finding nonprofit to work with, and that sort of thing. So that one is a lot of fun. Again, you can just attend the opening night shindig, and just be a part of it. Come see it, come experience it. I'm going to be there, like I said, right away after the show closes on day one. And then we have a lot of different opening events or networking events happening too. So I'll start with sort of the after dark hours, because I've personally gotten a lot of questions about this. So the after dark is a true like networking party, go have fun with your peers atmosphere. This one you do have to pay for these events. So if you haven't registered already, when you go to register, you can add this onto your registration. And these are more of like I'm going to get access to a really cool club in Vegas, and I'm going to go out with my industry peers, and I'm going to just unwind for the night. They go very late into the night. I'm not going to say one way or the other whether you should stay out all night. That's totally on you. If you are like, yep, I want to stay out till the wee hours of the morning enjoying this after dark event, please do. That's what it's there for. It's there to network, unwind, have a little fun, all that good stuff. So, and those again will happen each night of the show. go into your registration, you can check on that. Now, one detail I would have to double check, if you're already registered, I think you can go back and add those on, but I need to check. I'm not sure how you go about doing that, but I'd have to check on that. So if anybody has questions about if you're already registered but want to add on the After Dark events, find me afterward, contact me afterward, and we'll walk you through that process. But then, of course, there are always lots of various other networking opportunities, right? I mean, there's tons of exhibitors host different events, and we are in full support of those because we know that, again, you can't pick everyone. There might be at a certain exhibitor you want to attend a happy hour or whatever. Do it. There's going to be a happy hour in the apparel zone, even, I believe, 3 to 5 p.m. So if you want to just come to Apparel Zone, grab a beer and listen to the final presentation of the day.
I love it. It's like I said earlier when we were chatting before we went live, I was like, it's AM to AM. There's events AM to AM. So no matter if you are a morning person or a night owl, then something will be happening for you to be able to be involved with.
So
let's talk registration, because I think that is obviously one of the best ways to get involved with Printing United is to get registered. But when registration comes around, is there a timeline for which you have to enroll? Can you show up to the show and essentially walk in by registering there?
Yeah, we will certainly take on-site registrations. And that does happen because I understand, look, everybody who's listening to this, everybody in the printing industry as an attendee is probably a busy shop owner, right? That's just going to toss that out there. And we know you get busy, and we know that sometimes it's really hard. You might plan on going to an event, but then last minute can't, or you're like, I don't think I can go. And then last minute your time frees up and you find out you can go. Totally fine. I get it. We get it. That's the reality of life. It's the reality of being a small business owner and all that good stuff. So yep, if there's really no timeline, I mean, I personally would encourage you to register ahead of time. But hey, if you really can't, it's no sweat. We'll take care of you. Not a problem. Show up. We'll get you registered. We'll get you out there. We'll get you along the way to the show.
And so obviously now this is streaming live, and then this podcast will be released to our platform will be released so you can stream it on any podcast platform next Friday. But Printing United for 2024 is September 10th through the 12th. So if you are happening to catch this on a replay and Printing United has come and gone, sad day, are there other locations throughout the year that Printing United is available? Does the location, so this year it's in Vegas, does it ever change from, West Coast, East Coast? Is it different every year? Yeah.
No, that's a great question. So Printing United Expo, the main expo happens once a year. This year in Vegas. In 2025, next year, we'll be in Orlando. So if you're more of an East Coast kind of person, that'll be great. We'll be back to Vegas. Look, Vegas is a great location. It's hard to stay away from that location because it's very centrally located. It's easy for people to get there. Who doesn't like being in Vegas for work and maybe play? And so, you will see us returning to Vegas the most frequently, but with some other locations kind of sprinkled in there here and there, just depending on the year and where we're going to be at. So this year, Vegas, 2025, Orlando. So again, like you said, if you can't make it this year, bummer, sad, maybe join us next year in Orlando. And that would be great. We'd love to have you then too. And then of course, the Alliance does host a lot of smaller, more individualized events that are geared toward more of the specific printing verticals. We have the Apparel Decoration Summit. We have Wide Format Summit, Inkjet Summit. There's a Leadership Summit we put on for industry leaders and CEOs. So really, I can't emphasize enough, you should be a member, because as a member, you get access to all of this stuff. You get to see it. You are on the first to know lists. You'll be constantly reminded of these events, and you'll know which one is right for you to attend, all that good stuff. But yeah, just really keep your ears open. I think just in general, and paying attention to some of those smaller events, because each one offers something a little bit different.
Yeah, I think that's the cool thing, right, is that there's a lot of opportunity to still be involved with the Printing United Alliance throughout the year, but Printing United's trade show, big expo, that does happen one time a year. So if you do happen to miss it, then put it on your calendar for next year, or make it a goal come 2025 is to attend one of the events within the industry, or just really to go and do 2 days, one night in Orlando next year, just to kind of get a taste of what's really available and throughout. I think the cool thing is, if you do happen to find time in your schedule and you're like, you know what, I'm going, that the fact that you can register day of on site, I think that is huge, especially for those that kind of live in the pivot moments, or, oh my gosh, I can actually go, and now they can still sign up and not have that kind of like any penalty.
Mm-hmm.
What are you most excited about this year with Printing United?
Oh, what a loaded question. So, again, this is personal bias, but I am beyond excited for the apparel zone. Like as a whole educational area and zone, it's really cool. You referenced this earlier, and I meant to come back to it, and I'm glad that it got brought up again. I'm particularly pumped because we really built this area as like a theme this year to
Yeah.
really hammer home the experience. So obviously walking a traditional trade show and seeing all the booths and exhibitors is a good experience. Within the apparel zone, you're going to have that experience, and then we're going to add a little something to it. So we're leaning into the Vegas theme, particularly the 1950s, 60s Vegas theme. Lots of really cool Elvis themed things going on. We're going to have a Cadillac there where people can take pictures with the Cadillac. Kind of a fun experience. All of our awesome sponsors, stalls included, are also really leaning into the theme, and they're creating some really fun environments. And to me, why I think that that's such a neat thing, or such a crucial thing, is because now I feel like I'm actually living in the moment. I'm having this really neat experience that I'm not going to find anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I get to like learn how to use a heat press. I get to learn how to use a direct to garment printer. I get to learn how to use a screen printing press, like all of those things wrapped into a really cool environment, I think just really help give attendees an experience like they're not going to get anywhere else.
Yeah. That's experience to me, I think, is like one of the biggest things, because as there's shows, different types of education, we do a ton of different events and education throughout the year, and it doesn't make one better than the other. It's all about the experience that you get from that. And I think the way that there's been a huge highlight on experience for Printing United this year with the apparel zone, and just getting people to be excited about going, right? Like, just with everything that's going on, I think that is, I think that's huge. I think that's going to be, I'm excited. I'm ready.
And I agree. I mean, we're hearing overall, we're hearing a lot of positive stuff going on in the industry, but there's a little bit of like, I don't know, dark clouds hanging over from the economy and global trends and increased prices and labor. There's always going to be those little things. And there is this year. We are hearing that, right? And so I think, like you said, it almost uplifts people and reinvigorates them, and gets them motivated and excited. And like, okay, it doesn't always have to be doom and gloom. There are really cool things happening. There's really cool experiences you can still have that will, lift your mood, but also benefit your business.
I love it. That's, yeah, I think that finding a way to kind of refresh or feel that like aha moment, I think is great for anyone in any type of business. It's just to have that little lift of, oh, okay,
Mhm.
yeah, this is why I love what I'm doing.
Right.
For those that can't attend, you are very active on social media. The Printing United Expo is very active during the show on social media. Do you mind sharing those accounts, handles? That way people can follow along if they can't go, but they want to see, or kind of just get this overview of what is really happening.
Oh, totally. Because you're right. We try to keep our social channels updated almost live by the moment, so that you're right. We can show everybody the experience that's happening at the expo. And again, we know that you can't always attend, right? Realistically, things are going to happen. You can't always be there. If you can't be there, social is a great way to follow along. So we'll start small with Apparelist. So you just look for Apparelist on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and that's where you will find us. I love that.
Oh, Carly posted. I said it, and Carly posted it. So yeah, in the comments, guys, she did post the link, but I am going to pull them up as Cassie's talking about them. That way, if you are listening on the podcast, then you can hear what she has to say and then pop over to those social accounts.
Yep. So definitely make sure that you're connected to us as a follower, so you can see. We're going to do a really cool mix of, images and the normal pictures and stuff, but we'll also do some really cool video updates and little fun reels on Instagram specifically, and things like that. So that's a great way to get kind of a play-by-play update. Same with Printing United Alliance. So I want to clarify, you need to be connected to the Printing United Alliance. Yep. I see that. Thank you for sharing the link. It's Printing United. Don't put the expo in the link, because you won't find it. It's just Printing United. Keep it very simple. And that's where you can kind of also follow along for sort of bigger picture, entire expo experience, updates, and things like that. I will also say, make sure you're subscribed to the Apparelist newsletter, as well as if you are in the other industries, make sure you're subscribed to all of our media brands newsletters. All of us editors and content people and creators are pushing out content via our regular newsletter channel and right to your inbox each day of the show, so that, again, you can kind of tune in, keep a finger on what's happening. I personally am going to do video rundowns of some of the important, highlights of what happened the previous day, but also what to look forward to. So again, it's a way to sort of keep your finger on what's happening if you can't be there.
We decided to do lives each day of the show in the morning to kind of give a recap on what's going on that day with, activations, multiple different conversations with podcasts, the Apparelist Live Theater. Is that it?
Got it.
I got it. Apparel Zone, that education. We have in-booth education kind of sporadically happening as well. So from a Stalls, Transfer Express, Hotronics standpoint, we are in multiple different places. So you can follow along on both of our handles. Mm-hmm. That was a mouthful on social media platforms to see what we're doing. And then, of course, you can see the overarching view through Apparelist and Printing United. And I think that's where the biggest key connection kind of comes in, is seeing, what those Stalls, Transfer Express, Hotronics, what we're doing, but then kind of oh my gosh, there's an entire other world that is there as well.
Right. And that is so crucial. I'm so glad you brought that up. Be connected with the companies that you work with, the manufacturers and suppliers and things like that, because while we try to be everywhere, I think we've said it 1,000 times, we cannot be. Our content creators cannot be everywhere all the time. So the exhibitors and all of these suppliers, our amazing partners, see and do things that sometimes we missed because we were covering this other thing. So make sure you are connected. I can't emphasize this enough. This is a community, and being connected to everybody in the community is so important.
Yeah, I completely agree. Even if it's just something you may not purchase from them, but you know what, ideas always kind of can come about, and you can go that route. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in with us live. Cassie, as always, it's always a pleasure to chat with you. And thank you for taking the time to really just kind of go over Printing United. I really hope for those of you that either hadn't heard about the expo or the Alliance, attended one of the shows or an event, that this just kind of gave you a good insight into really what else is out there in terms of partnerships and community involvement. So, Cassie, any last wrap up?
No, just feel free to reach out to me directly if you have questions. My email is super simple. It's just cgreen@napco.com. I would love to answer additional questions, give insight on something specifically. If there's something Kelly mentioned or that I mentioned that you're like, oh, I'd have more questions about that, just let us know, reach out. And then of course, come visit both of us. We'll both be on site. So we want to say hi.
I love it. Well, you guys have a wonderful Friday. Hopefully you are able to relax on Monday. If not, way to continue the hustle. And Cassie, I will see you in 8 days, maybe 7, because we're both getting there on Saturday. And for everyone else, if you're attending Printing United, please stop by, say hi to us. We always love to meet people in person. As she said, she enjoys in person as well. So with that, that's the wrap of our Heat Press for Profit podcast. And thanks so much for tuning in, guys. See you later.